Have you ever noticed how some people walk quietly in the opposite direction? Not because they want attention, not because they want to rebel, but because something inside them simply won't let them follow what feels wrong. INFJs are often misunderstood for this reason. They don't chase trends. They don't move with the crowd. They don't adopt beliefs just because everyone else has. And while this may look like stubbornness from the outside, the truth is much deeper. For INFJs, following the crowd often feels like losing themselves. And today, we're exploring why. The INFJ personality type is often described as rare, intuitive, and deeply principled. But one of their most defining traits is also one of the most misunderstood. INFJs do not move through life by imitation. They move through life by alignment. While many people find comfort in belonging to the majority, INFJs feel discomfort when their actions drift away from their inner values. This creates a quiet tension between the INFJ and the world around them. A tension that often leads to one question: why do INFJs refuse to follow the crowd? 1. INFJs are guided by inner alignment, not external approval. Most people are influenced by social reinforcement. Approval feels safe. Agreement feels validating. Blending in reduces risk. But INFJs operate differently. Their decision-making process is internal before it is social. Before they agree with something, they ask themselves, does this align with my values? Does this feel emotionally honest? Does this make sense long-term? Does this harm anyone? If the answer feels wrong internally, no amount of social pressure can make it feel right. This is why INFJs often walk away from popular opinions, trending lifestyles, or dominant cultural narratives. Not because they think they are superior, but because internal misalignment feels unbearable to them. 2. Crowd mentally feels emotionally empty to INFJs. INFJs crave meaning. Surface-level engagement drains them. Groupthink feels hollow. Trends without substance feel emotionally flat. When people follow the crowd without reflection, INFJs sense a lack of intention. They notice when people adopt beliefs they haven't examined. They notice when opinions change depending on who's watching. They notice when actions are driven by fear of exclusion rather than truth. And this awareness creates distance. INFJs don't judge the crowd. They simply feel disconnected from it. 3. INFJs see long-term consequences others ignore. One of the most powerful INFJ traits is future-oriented intuition. They don't just see what is happening. They sense where things are going. When a trend rises, INFJs often feel uneasy before anything visibly goes wrong. When a workplace culture celebrates burnout, INFJs sense future emotional collapse. When social values prioritize image over integrity, INFJs sense long-term emptiness. When people chase success without meaning, INFJs sense quiet dissatisfaction ahead. So while others follow momentum, INFJs hesitate. Not because they fear change, but because they sense where the road leads. 4. Following the crowd often means self-betrayal for INFJs. INFJs experience internal conflict very deeply. If they act against their values, they don't just feel uncomfortable, they feel fractured. Even small compromises can create lingering emotional tension. Saying yes when they mean no. Agreeing publicly while disagreeing internally. Participating in systems that feel unethical. These things cost INFJs emotional energy over time. So eventually, they learn something important. Belonging at the expense of integrity is too expensive. And this realization changes everything. 5. INFJs value truth over comfort. Truth is not always popular. Truth disrupts routines. Truth challenges norms. Truth invites discomfort. INFJs are willing to sit with that discomfort. They would rather feel temporarily alone than permanently false. This is why INFJs may leave groups quietly. Why they may stop participating without explanation. Why they may choose solitude over forced connection. They are not rejecting people. They are choosing honesty. 6. Social pressure feels loud to INFJs. INFJs are highly sensitive to emotional undercurrents. They feel expectations before they are spoken. They sense judgment before it's expressed. They absorb collective moods without trying. In group environments, this can feel overwhelming, especially when conformity is expected. INFJs don't like being emotionally pushed into decisions. They need space to reflect, time to process, freedom to decide internally. When the crowd demands immediate alignment, INFJs instinctively pull back. 7. INFJs are comfortable being unpopular for the right reasons. This is one of the quiet strengths of the INFJ personality. They are not driven by popularity metrics. They don't measure success by applause. They don't measure worth by numbers. They don't measure truth by consensus. They measure life by depth. So if standing alone means staying aligned, they accept the loneliness. Not easily, not without feeling it, but willingly. 8. INFJs observe before they join. INFJs rarely rush into movements, trends, or beliefs. They watch. They listen. They analyze patterns. While others jump in, INFJs ask, who benefits from this? Who is being overlooked? What is the emotional cost? What happens if this continues? Only after understanding the full picture do they decide whether to participate. This makes them appear slow or resistant. But in reality, they are deeply intentional. 9. The cost of not following the crowd. Being an INFJ often comes with consequences that are rarely visible on the surface. There is the quiet feeling of being misunderstood. The subtle distance that grows when others can't quite place you. The moments when you're labeled distant, strange, or overly complex. INFJs feel this more deeply than they let on. They want connection. They want belonging. They want to be understood without having to explain themselves endlessly. But there is something they cannot do. They cannot pretend. They cannot flatten their values to fit into spaces that feel wrong. They cannot silence their inner voice just to maintain social harmony. So they choose authenticity, even when it costs them comfort. Even when it leads to loneliness. Even when it hurts. And it does hurt. But the pain of being misunderstood is still lighter than the pain of betraying themselves. 10. INFJs trust inner consistency more than social agreement. Crowds move by momentum. Once a direction is chosen, it accelerates. Opinions spread. Assumptions solidify. Agreement becomes automatic. INFJs do not move this way. They move by coherence. They need their thoughts, values, emotions, and actions to line up internally. If one piece feels off, they pause. When something is socially accepted but internally inconsistent, it creates tension inside them. A quiet pressure. A subtle resistance. They may not argue. They may not confront. They may not announce disagreement. But they notice. And when that internal tension doesn't resolve, they disengage. This is why INFJs can appear agreeable on the surface while privately choosing a completely different path. Their resistance is rarely loud. It is internal. It is deliberate. And once it happens, it is final. 11. Following the crowd triggers INFJ overstimulation. Large groups amplify energy. Opinions bounce rapidly. Emotions escalate. Decisions happen without pause. For INFJs, this intensity feels overwhelming. They absorb emotional signals deeply. Every tone shift. Every unspoken reaction. Every undercurrent of tension. Crowds often generate emotional noise without clarity. Too many voices speaking at once. Too many expectations layered together. Too much urgency without reflection. When this happens, INFJs lose access to their inner guidance. So they step away. Not because they dislike people. Not because they feel superior. But because they need quiet to hear themselves think. Solitude is not rejection. It is regulation. It allows INFJs to recalibrate. To separate what belongs to them from what they've absorbed from others. 12. INFJs are wired for depth, not speed. Crowds move fast. Trends rise overnight. Opinions shift instantly. Judgments form before understanding. INFJs move slowly by design. They prefer understanding over reaction. Meaning over momentum. Depth over immediacy. This difference in pacing creates friction. While others rush forward, INFJs pause. While others adopt, INFJs question. While others repeat, INFJs reinterpret. Their refusal to follow is often not rebellion. It is reflection. They do not want to move quickly in the wrong direction. They would rather arrive late with clarity than early with regret. 13. INFJs need personal meaning, not a shared script. Crowds often offer ready-made scripts for life. This is success. This is happiness. This is normal. This is enough. INFJs feel these scripts immediately, and they question them instinctively. Enough for whom? Meaningful for whom? Aligned with what? If the script does not resonate internally, they cannot perform it convincingly. They may rewrite their own version quietly, or they may choose no script at all. This independence can look confusing to others. But for INFJs, living someone else's definition of fulfillment feels hollow. They would rather create a life that makes sense internally than one that looks right externally. 14. INFJs would rather be misunderstood than untrue. One of the hardest lessons INFJs learn is accepting misunderstanding. When they don't follow the crowd, assumptions appear. They're difficult. They're aloof. They think they're better than others. They're too sensitive. INFJs feel the weight of these labels. They replay conversations. They wonder if they should explain themselves more. They question whether staying true is worth the distance it creates. Over time, they learn something important. Being misunderstood hurts. But being false hurts more. So they accept the quiet distance. They trust that those who truly understand them will recognize the intention behind their choices. And those who don't were never meant to walk closely with them anyway. 15. INFJs value inner peace over social validation. Social validation is temporary. Applause fades. Trends expire. Approval shifts. Inner peace lasts longer. INFJs prioritize emotional equilibrium. They choose decisions that allow them to sleep peacefully, to look at themselves honestly, to feel grounded in their own integrity. This inner stability matters more to them than external praise. So they step away from what disrupts it, even if it's popular, even if it's expected, even if it costs them visibility. 16. INFJs don't rebel, they realign. This distinction matters. INFJs are not rebels by nature. They do not resist for the sake of resistance. They realign. When something no longer fits their values, they quietly shift direction. No drama. No declaration. No performance. Just a subtle but firm movement toward what feels true. While the world celebrates visibility, INFJs cultivate depth. They build lives that may not look impressive on the surface, but feel deeply aligned internally. Their integrity is quiet. Their values are lived, not announced. Their impact is subtle, but lasting. They may never lead the crowd, but they influence individuals profoundly. Finding belonging takes time for INFJs. Because INFJs don't follow the crowd, they often don't find their community early. It takes time. Time to filter. Time to recognize resonance. Time to find people who value depth over noise. But when they do find those connections, they are real. Few. But meaningful. And worth the wait. INFJs are not obstacles. They are balance. Progress does not come from repetition. It comes from reflection. INFJs question what others accept. They notice what others overlook. They feel consequences before they appear. Their presence slows recklessness, adds conscience, introduces depth. They are not obstacles to movement. They are balance within it. If you are an INFJ who has spent years wondering why following the crowd feels so wrong, it's because your inner compass is louder than social noise. You were never meant to dissolve into sameness. You were meant to walk a quieter path. One guided by integrity. One shaped by intuition. One aligned with truth. And while it may feel lonely at times, it is also the path that allows you to remain fully yourself.